Hi, I'm Holly, a doula and childbirth educator at Your Labor Neighbor, and I also am the author of the breastfeeding blog Mama's Milk No Chaser. Today I want to share with you some tips for building confidence while nursing in public. So my first tip is start somewhere familiar. If you're a little bit nervous about breastfeeding in public, start somewhere that is family friendly, maybe like a library or a park, somewhere that's kind of quieter and a place where you can get a little bit more space to yourselves. This can kind of boost your confidence a little bit, and you can start venturing out into other places that are more crowded once you get comfortable. Number two, have a support person join you. So this could either be a breastfeeding friend, it could be your partner, somebody who supports what you're doing and believes in you, somebody who makes you feel comfortable and protected and can help guard your space. This person can also be there to keep you company. If you don't have a supportive partner or a friend who can be there for you in this way, I recommend getting involved in some of the breastfeeding groups online. You can just kind of whip out your phone when you're breastfeeding in public, start a conversation on there to connect with others who are, a lot of them will be doing the same exact thing as you at that time, and it'll help you feel less alone. Anytime that you're breastfeeding, there are thousands of people breastfeeding at the same time as you. A lot of them are also doing this in public, so even if you feel alone, you never are truly alone. Number three, process your fears. So there could be a lot of reasons why a lot of people have fears and hesitance about breastfeeding in public. Some of these concerns can range from just not wanting to expose certain parts of your body, fear of harassment. Maybe you have a voice in your head of somebody who has expressed disapproval of what you're doing before, and that voice is just in your head when you're in public trying to nurse your baby. So just try to figure out what it is really that is causing this anxiety, this fear for you, so that you can address it directly. Number four, practice nursing in front of somebody who's experienced with breastfeeding. This can be a lactation consultant, midwife, pediatrician, a seasoned breastfeeding friend, somebody who's been there and done that. It's good to get that positive feedback so that they can reassure you that you don't look like a fool, you're doing everything right. So the next one is work on positioning. Before you get started with breastfeeding in public, it can really help to breastfeed in front of a mirror so you can get your positionings down right. I also think that it's a good idea to kind of brainstorm where you think you might be nursing in public most often. It's going to be very different the way that you breastfeed, let's say standing on a subway, versus when you are walking down a grocery store aisle or sitting on a park bench. So you're going to have to get accustomed to different ways of nursing than perhaps you're used to nursing at home. So the next one is prepare what you'll do if you're publicly harassed. I don't want you to worry that you are definitely going to be harassed at some point. I personally have only been harassed in public, I think, twice. It's really not something that happens to everybody, and it's a pretty big waste of energy to be worrying about a showdown or confrontation that's going to happen every time that you leave the house. So definitely don't do that, but I think that it's a good idea to still prepare for how you would react if something like that did happen. If someone was offended by what you're doing and they say or do something to express that, what will you say? Will you educate them? Will you hand them a breastfeeding laws card? Will you just kind of stand your ground and say, hey buddy, it's my legal right to be here? You can always give them a kind of a snarky quip. That works pretty well too. Number seven, prepare what you will do if you're publicly commended. So like I said, I've not really been publicly harassed too much. I'm pretty sure that I've gotten some rude stares and some overly interested looks before, but I've only been properly harassed in public for breastfeeding twice. Most of my experiences have been positive. I've gotten thumbs up, I've gotten thank yous for breastfeeding, I've had people say, you're a great mom, you're doing a good job, and things like that. A lot of smiles from strangers. So I think a lot of it is if you can exude the energy that you are comfortable as much as you can, then others will be comfortable with you too. Whenever I've gotten compliments like this, sometimes I felt embarrassed by the intention, sometimes I felt proud of myself, sometimes I felt just overwhelmed with emotion. Just having somebody, who doesn't even know you to recognize the hard work that you're doing to tend to your baby, it can be a really emotional moment. So just kind of prepare for those things to happen. I want you to know that there are a lot of people out there who agree with what you're doing, they support you, and they're on your side. I have also encountered people who are a little bit nosy and overstep their boundaries into your personal bubble. So that has happened to me before, where people have been a little too enthusiastic, a little too interested, when I was pretty sure the vibe I was giving off was, we're kind of keeping to ourselves right now and don't want anyone talking to us. So just try to figure out some ways that you can communicate that with others if that's something that you feel you need to do. Number 8 is wear clothing that you feel comfortable in. I don't think that there's any certain kind of clothes that you need to nurse your baby. It's really just however you feel like you can do it easiest and smoothest. Some people like to just pull their shirt down. That's what I always did. Others like to do the 2-shirt method, which is where you are wearing 2 shirts. You pull the top one up and the bottom one down just enough to, have your nipple available for your baby. Then you can latch on your baby. Latch on your baby that way after you pull that shirt down. I would always, say that you can just kind of put your hand here. If you're not doing the 2-shirt method, I would always just put my hand here. But if you're doing this method, you can hold the shirt up like this and just kind of keep your hand there, because a lot of times in public, babies will just, pop off and on, and they look around because everything's really interesting. So when they pop off, you can just kind of quickly just put your shirt or your hand here to kind of cover that area until the baby is ready to latch on again. There are a lot of nursing friendly tops too nowadays. Back when I started breastfeeding, there wasn't too much of that, so I just wore whatever shirts I had lying around. You really don't have to go out and buy new nursing tops to breastfeed easily. If you want to wear just a normal top, you can always just put burp cloth or muslin cloth, a muslin swaddle over this area to cover the top of your breast when your baby is nursing here, and that can give you some coverage if you want it. Just remember that it's not necessary to cover from a legal standpoint. Covers are made for your comfort and your baby's comfort. They're not for other people's comfort. And you don't have to wear a cover of any kind if you don't want to. Number 9, learn how to nurse on the go while baby wearing. This one I think is really important to get the hang of early on. If you're nursing on the go, that means that you don't have to always, find a comfy place to sit down to nurse. It's also a lot less likely for you to feel self-conscious while nursing, because you're just staying on the move and you're too busy to think about it. Number 10 is recite your mantras. So this one might seem a little bit cheesy. For those of you who get into a really nervous kind of headspace, it's good to do that positive self-talk and inject that confidence into your subconscious by repeating some mantras to yourself. So some ones that I like are: nursing on demand is best. I'm a fearless, confident mother. My baby comes first. I don't owe anyone an apology or explanation. My baby deserves to eat. My baby deserves comfort. We have every right to be here. I'll always respond to my baby. I'm doing a great job at this. The next one is stay busy and use distraction. So honestly, breastfeeding can get quite boring and go on freaking forever sometimes. If you have issues with anxiety or self-consciousness, these long stretches of being bored can cause your mind to wander and start to wonder if people are staring at you. Have your phone handy so you can just, busy yourself checking your email. You can do a crossword puzzle that you keep in your purse, call your grandma, whatever you find enjoyable and easy to do while multitasking. Number 12 is watch other breastfeeders. So when I was first starting out with breastfeeding, I didn't have any friends who breastfed. I actually didn't even have any friends who had babies. So I kind of had to learn how to do this pretty much on my own. There weren't many videos of people breastfeeding online, not really even any pictures of people breastfeeding that wasn't like some posed kind of situation or a clinical type of situation. So I kind of wasn't really sure how it all was supposed to go. I went to a couple of La Leche League meetings. Almost all of the moms there were wearing covers. Some of the moms who had older kids, they were nursing toddlers, and they were nursing with ease and confidence. Just watching those mothers breastfeed, it was just kind of helping me understand like how the mechanics of all of it worked. So just watching those other moms was really helpful for me because it kind of gave me a mirror reflection of, you know, what this looks like from the other side. The next one is pretend that you're at home nursing your baby. So even though I've been breastfeeding in public pretty easily for 7.5 years now, there have been times when I kind of surprised myself and thought that I wouldn't be nervous because it hadn't been something I'd felt breastfeeding in public in a long time. But I would go somewhere new, or there might be someone present who I knew disapproved of breastfeeding in front of other people, of breastfeeding without a cover, however I was doing it. And I would get a little bit nervous then, a little bit self-conscious. And so I would just kind of go into my own bubble, really just kind of pretend that I was at home nursing my baby, you know, where we felt most comfortable, and it was just me and him, and I would just focus on him and just let the background distractions kind of fade away, and that was really helpful. The next one is experiment with eye contact. So I found it to be helpful to sometimes make eye contact with passersby. You know, by doing this, you're helping to normalize breastfeeding as a non-threatening, friendly, wholesome activity. And you know, there's nothing really to worry about here. It can kind of put you in better spirits to make that connection with strangers. You know, and just giving somebody else a positive acknowledgement of their presence is always a good thing, and that comes back to you too. And you never know who's going to smile back. Number 15 is nurse your baby before going out. So, of course, nursing your baby before going out does not mean your baby won't need to nurse or won't get hungry while you're out. What it really does is it can take the edge off your baby's hunger, which can make for a calmer, quieter breastfeeding experience. If your baby is more satisfied in general, it draws less attention to you both. So the next one is practice makes perfect. So if you felt kind of like a fumbling fool the first couple of times that you were breastfeeding in public, please don't let it discourage you. It can take, you know, a little while to get the hang of things and to get into a rhythm with your baby too. Your baby's growing, and breastfeeding, you know, it changes all the time. And so it's not going to be exactly the same as the last time that you were doing it. Keep trying and keep practicing, and with time, it will get easier. Number 17 is don't forget the helpful little details. Of course, the only thing that you really need to breastfeed in public is your baby and your breast milk. There are a couple of other things that can make it a little bit easier and a little bit smoother though. I know for me, I really liked having a nursing necklace. My babies liked to always grab my jewelry and yank it, and I have so much broken jewelry because of that. So wearing a nursing necklace in public was helpful for that reason. I also liked to have a hair tie because my babies also liked to yank on my hair and tangle it up and rip it out. So I always liked to just tie it back so I didn't have to worry about that. If you tend to leak while breastfeeding, just carry some extra disposable nursing pads in your purse, and most importantly, always make sure to have water on hand. If you let yourself get dehydrated, which is pretty easy for a breastfeeding mom, it's more likely that you're going to not feel very good and then just not have a very good experience because you're feeling thirsty and more tired. Number 18, remember that a visible areola is not the end of the world. Even if you're doing the two-shirt method or you're wearing a cover, sometimes baby will, you know, throw the cover off and then there's a little flash of areola. Please don't worry about that. No one's going to die. It's really not a big deal. Everybody has nipples. They all generally look pretty much the same. Most importantly, your body is not obscene. So really just don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. So the next one is fake it till you make it. So if you really don't have a whole lot of natural confidence in this area, maybe because you just haven't seen a lot of public breastfeeding, or maybe, you know, you just haven't done it before. Nobody said that you have to have everything together and be a perfect breastfeeder to have the right to breastfeed in public. You breastfeed in public however that looks and however you need to, and that's perfectly enough. For all moms, breastfeeding can be messy and disorganized a lot of the time, really. It's not always like these pictures that we see online of, you know, moms wearing a white flowing gown and they're sitting in a field of lavender with like this ethereal glow behind them, and nursing their baby wearing this perfectly coordinated outfit. It's not like that in reality. So the next one, remember that you're a role model. So every time that you breastfeed in public, you're positively influencing the next generation of breastfeeders that come after you. So I had this experience when I was first starting breastfeeding, and I was nursing my baby. I was seated, and I was just trying to focus on him because it was very crowded in there, and I wasn't really sure how others were going to react. I was still kind of getting the hang of always needing to watch him latch on too, so that was important to me. There was a young girl who was standing next to me. I kind of sensed that she was staring at us, so I kind of looked over at her and we made eye contact, and I didn't really know what she would think about what she was seeing. It was maybe the first time she had ever seen somebody breastfeed in public, perhaps just without the cover, and she smiled at me. She gave me a really big smile, and it just made me feel so good. I feel that breastfeeding in public is really important and that we shouldn't hide it, and that it positively impacts all kinds of people, and it helps promote realistic, positive body image, which benefits everyone. So the last one is, please know you're not doing anything wrong. No matter how it looks when you're breastfeeding, even if something was showing, it's 100% acceptable however you need to feed your baby. History is behind you. The law is on your side. Breastfeeding is love. Love always wins. All kinds of people breastfeed in public. Shy people breastfeed in public. Really social, extroverted people breastfeed in public. Newborn babies and kindergartners alike breastfeed in public. Your decision to nurse in public is not going to ruin anybody's day. It might actually make someone's day.